You have. I take the lady and then the gentleman, and then I think the questions are over. Please.
Okay, my name is Elke Holz. I'm from the German Institute for Economic Research, and I would like to address the fact that women get much more victims either in the social media or on the streets. And that is not only in Germany a problem, in India as well, I guess. And I would be very interested in the case of security and labor market issues, because women don't go very often then in positions which are dangerous. What you are doing to guarantee equal chances? Thank you.
Yes, interesting question. I see a second lady, but I think we will do the gentleman and then the second lady, and then we'll close it.
Hello, my name is Jürgen Brandes. I'm the chairman of Schaltbau, a small mid-sized company in Munich. Former, I was with Siemens and founded 3 factories in India with huge success. My question now, I saw President Modi visited Ukraine as well as Russia to help the Europeans to dissolve this kind of conflict. How do you see the role of India to mitigate the future risk of this conflict for our economy, but also for the world's economy?
Thank you. And last question, ma'am.
Hello, thank you all very much. My name is Julia Sauter. I'm the CEO of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council and also the chair of the Global Renewables Alliance. Thank you all for your conversations. Question for you on the G20, the upcoming meeting that will be in Brazil. What is India's main goal? And in partnership with Germany, what do you both look to achieve from the meetings at G20? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Jaishankar.
The first observation I take as a kind of recommendation or a motivation that, we should have more intercity and interstate, interprovincial relationships. I think it's a very good point. I'd also tell you honestly, it's not something which is deep, it's not that strong in our tradition as it is in yours. But I do think it's a good idea too. So I hope when we have our intergovernmental consultations, something we could look at. On the concerns regarding women, we have a range of issues there, and every society has its own. But if I were to share with you some of the challenges, it would be we would find school going rates for boys and girls would be different. Nutrition levels would be different. When they grew up, you would have, when it came to say property, it would often be in the name of the boy or the men and not the woman or the girl. When it came to political representation, we would find that the dice was like heavily loaded in one direction. So it's, and of course there is a security issue as well. In fact, often we have incidents which really create a sort of a great deal of tumult in the society. So there is, it's something one has to work on every facet of it. And again, I mean, he's not here, but I can tell you one of the proudest things for my Prime Minister is how much he's actually led this fight in India. That in his time, we've seen actually the gaps, the girls. Today we have more girls going to school in India than boys. And that's a huge change for us because the gaps used to be very big. Now, I spoke about government giving houses to families, and we've given about roughly 36 million houses, something like that. Now we insist that the house is co-registered with the lady, that it's not something which the man of the house owns. We had last year a legislation to ensure that in our parliament we had at least 33% women's representation, also in the state assemblies. But it's a very complex fight because there are centuries of, prejudice, attitude, habits, which have accumulated. And it's not easy to fix it, but there is a great deal of determination. And in fact, there was a question about the G20. One of the issues we pushed in the G20 and was the idea of women-led development. That it's not that, you're bringing them up to speed. There are areas where actually we find, women, for a variety of reasons, are actually ahead of the rest of society. So I'll come to the G20 and then go back to the Ukraine. On the G20, I just want to say this, and maybe Annalena would like to add to it. The way it works is Brazil right now has the chair, but as the previous chair, we're part of the Troika. And the agenda of the G20 is like a carry it from presidency to presidency. Everybody adds their particular layer to what is out there. We would like definitely many of the issues which started out under us, for example, digital public infrastructure, that how do we actually facilitate, make it affordable and accessible in much of the global south, the idea of digital governance and digital delivery and digital facilities. A second is really reforming the multilateral development banks. How do we lend better? How do we make it more effective? Because in many ways, we think they are under leveraging the multilateral development banks, the resources that they have. Finally, on the Russia-Ukraine issue, and I'll be discussing it in some detail with the minister later on. Look, let me say this. Prime Minister Modi went to Russia in July, and we all went to Kiev in August, about 10 days ago. Now, here is what we think. We don't think that this conflict is going to be resolved in the battlefield. That at some stage, there's going to be some negotiation. Now, when there is a negotiation, the main parties, I mean, in this case, Russia and Ukraine, have to be at that negotiation. That it cannot be that the negotiation is everybody else taking a position and then going to Russia and saying, okay, this is our collective position. Maybe, that could be one facet of it, but eventually there has to be a negotiation. We also don't think that conflicts are a good way of resolving differences. I mean, countries have differences, neighbors especially have differences. But we don't think this is an era, given the interdependence. We've all seen the consequences of this conflict across the world. That there are parts of the world far, far away where it's created a food crisis, it's created a fuel crisis, it's actually created political crisis in countries because the ripple impact of this conflict has actually hurt people. So we have been very open about it. What we have said in Moscow is also what we have said in Kiev. And we have said in public in Moscow that we don't think this is an era of war. We don't think you're going to get a solution out of the battlefield. We think you've got to negotiate. It's not for us to tell you what terms. If you want advice, we are always willing to give it. But that's really the position that we've taken.